I'm Joanne, and I'm going to step in as service leader. And I'm going to start by reading Reverend Jim's welcoming words. I want to extend a warm welcome to you today. Everyone is welcome here. You are welcome, regardless of your age, your race, your income, your religion, or the gender with which you identify. You are welcome here, regardless of who you love, who you vote for, or the regrets that burden you, or the mistakes you have made. In this safe community, we support each other in the sacred task of becoming, celebrate the transcending mystery of life, and rely on the transforming power of love. Here, we revere the words of the great teachers, such as Jesus, the Buddha, and Confucius. It is, however, the task of every UU to be their own Buddha, their own Jesus, their own Confucius. It is our work as a community to walk with each other along the spiritual pathways that lead towards happiness, compassion, and life fully lived. And while we are a safe harbor where there is solace and healing, we are also a launching pad from which we are propelled into the tumult of life to live courageously, justly, and lovingly. In this sacred place, we create the structures that lift up the downtrodden, set the captives free, and heal the brokenhearted. Here we have learned that to be fully human is to be fully divine, and that with a little help from our friends, we can each tell our own unique story. As an opening for today's service, I'm going to say that this service has evolved and changed many times throughout the week. Originally, we wanted to focus on the theme of living your faith through service, followed by a committee showcase giving buffers an opportunity to learn ways we can live our faith at Buff through fellowship activities. Our amazing Buff president, Diane Gibbons, even went so far as to coordinate a luncheon for current and future volunteers and drop off all the ingredients at Buff. But then the snowstorm hit, and we once again had to prioritize buffer safety and move to a Zoom-only service. I'm so glad so many of you made it into the service with us today. I hope no one's at the fellowship parking lot looking to get into the building, as Patrice just told us this morning happened to her last week. Hopefully that didn't happen to anyone today. In addition, our beloved minister, as I mentioned, Reverend Jim, was diagnosed with COVID, and he is unable to deliver today's message. So we are very grateful to Julia Ryan for stepping in and delivering this Sunday's homily. In addition, Diane Gibbons will speak briefly about beautifying our sanctuary and how buffers can help. Harvey Johnson and I had also prepared messages about service in our to our service within our fellowship, but those messages will instead be spread across the next few weeks. Our luncheon and committee showcase has been postponed to Sunday, February 18th, following the service, and we hope all of you will attend.
You know, briefly, I can. I don't know that the new people are aware of our big maintenance list and what we were talking about when we talk about this maintenance list, especially since we've started a monthly fundraiser with donations toward a prize. And on the jar, it says, you know, the money's going to go toward the maintenance list. I think back in 2022, a very ambitious group of buffers evaluated the building and grounds and made a big, long list of things that need to be taken care of. Number one, in order to keep our building and grounds safe. And number two, and to make it a comfortable, enjoyable place to be. So there's an ongoing list that people have been working on since 2022, especially in 2023. So many of these jobs take a little bit of money. And since we work on a limited budget, we're always trying to increase our income in some small way without always asking money from the buffers for everything. And one important thing we are aiming for is to improve the looks of the building and the grounds and make it more suitable for renters. In the past, we've had monthly renters that have increased our monthly income significantly. The last set of renters, their group disbanded, so we lost them and have not been able to encourage any more people to come in. So by the end of March, early spring, we'd like many, many jobs done so we can take pictures and do some marketing out there in the community and see if we can bring in a few more renters. That's another reason for the maintenance list. So anybody who has extra time as we announce work days, we'd really appreciate your help. Thank you.
I like this chalice so that by its light we may read all the books. Books with offensive material. Books which affirm the diversity of the human race. Books which normalize our varied sexualities.
That's beautiful, Julie. Thank you. Is that a bird you have there? That's a candle?
Yes.
Oh, how nice. How lovely. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm missing being with you in person today, but happy to be with you on Zoom. I just was thrilled by both those videos. The children just brought me such joy to see them, and it really both those messages connect so strongly with how I feel and what I'm going to talk about. I actually had a very unusual childhood in which I got to travel very widely. So I consider myself a world citizen, and I got to see how a lot of the rest of the world lives. I on the way home to Nairobi from England, we would drive through the biggest shanty town in the world in Kenya. I lived in South Africa through apartheid. I lived in Beirut before and after the 6-Day War, and on and on. And I spent a lot of time in the Middle East and Africa as a child. And it left a deep impression on me. Whenever I read about suffering worldwide in the news, it feels helpful to me personally to respond by taking effective action instead of sitting and feeling really glum about it. You know, if I feel like I'm going out and actually trying to do something, it feels like a much more positive response. And I try to find ways of taking effective action to help make the world the kind of place that I want to live in. Sometimes this feels very much beyond our control, but this is not actually true. There are ways in which we can do a considerable amount. And I like to work on both a large global scale and a local scale, you know, down to my next door neighbor. I am rather hilariously call myself a boo you, after a friend of mine who's Jewish and a neurosurgeon and rabbi called herself, said they call themselves boo Jews, Buddhist Jewish people. So I decided I'm a boo you, and you know, I feel that both being a UU and a Buddhist call me to be of service as part of my spiritual practice. And here in the UU community at Buff, I feel a great joy in being surrounded by like-minded people, like-minded souls, because indeed service is a part of our faith tradition. I was lucky enough to find a global organization called Results to volunteer with for over 30 years. We work to end the worst aspects of poverty on a large scale, globally and nationally. Working on promoting vaccinations, prevention and treatment of such killers as AIDS, TB, cholera, and malaria. We work on promoting maternal and child health initiatives on a really grand scale, which helps not only save mothers and children's lives down to something as simple as having a sheet of plastic to give birth on for people who live in dire circumstances. But it also prevents a lot of children from then going on to be disabled and not able to function in the world. We also help promote micro-lending from its inception. I know that some of you will have heard of this, and I'm happy to talk about it when I see you. It's a little complicated to talk about right now, but it helps people raise themselves out of poverty. It's sort of like along the lines of, teaching a man to fish instead of just giving him a fish, right? Domestically, we've fought for maximum support of such efforts as the SNAP food program, which is phenomenally helpful. How do you function in this world without nutrition? And also the child tax credit and other such initiatives, but Results has helped save many millions of lives. Very recently, Nick Kristof of the New York Times, who writes about a lot of humanitarian issues, wrote that historically almost half, what he was really writing about was, in spite of the fact that everything seems so difficult in 2023, that it may have actually been the best year in the history of humanity, which is kind of a shocker, right? Because historically, almost half of the children worldwide have died before they reach the age of 15. That share has declined steadily since the 19th century, and the United Nations Population Division projects that in 2023, a record low was reached in global child mortality, with just 3.6% of newborns dying by the age of 5, 1 million fewer than died as recently as 2016. Or consider extreme poverty. It has reached a record low, affecting more than 8% of humans worldwide, according to United Nations projections. About 100,000 people are now emerging from extreme poverty each day. That just blows my mind. So they are better able to obtain clean water, to feed and educate their children, to buy medicine. And I'd like to add that it also helps them to be functioning members of their communities and their countries and the world. And so it's something that, helps us all. We're all interconnected with that, be it on moral terms or simply practical terms. We all function as one at this point. So it is important to me also to volunteer with some of the many wonderful local organizations that many of you help. I know you all do a lot of wonderful things, and I look forward to hearing more about those too. And I've been trying to get myself involved, and to protect. It's important to me also to protect and promote democracy and voters' rights. We also have exciting opportunities to volunteer at Buff, to support this wonderful congregation and community. And I look forward to when we can be in person to in February to see what some of these opportunities will be. And I think someone may be talking about that a little more today. People have brought it up earlier. But I think volunteering helps the world go round and be a better place. And I think one last thing I'd say is volunteering for results. When I first started in the early 80s, there were 42,000 children under the age of 5 dying of preventable causes every single day. And with the work that we and other organizations have done, that number of 42,000 a year has come down, I believe, to well below 15,000 a day. And the inspiring goal is to bring it down to 0 preventable deaths by the year 30 or 35. I'm not clear what the current goal is, whether it's changed due to circumstances. But I find this a very joyful thing, that our hands are not tied, that we can make a difference at any level that we choose. And I thank all of you for doing what you do. And I love being part of this congregation. Thank you very much.
We are all called to serve, to grow, and to love as we continue this journey of transformation.